Hey, hey, hey. Happy Tuesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host, here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, incredibly enough, thegaminggang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So welcome aboard, everybody. Tonight is Tuesday, February 13th, 2024. This is live stream 1019. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out, super casual around here. We just hang out talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news, and I usually pontificate about something that's going on in our hobby. But we are certainly not doing any heavy lifting or engaging in any rocket surgery by any stretch of the imagination. Now, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you will not find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, because this is a live show, that means there is chat available. It's not on screen, one of the ways I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. And you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least 48 hours before being able to take part in chat. Yet another way that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But if you want to say howdy, maybe you've got a question, comment, by all means, chime in. I will do my best to respond. First out of the gate tonight is one of our chat moderators. Yes, the Motor City Madman himself. The Madman is with us, as is Wild Hunter, Lord Koss 2000, and W Forge. I will guess that Sarah D, another of our chat moderators, might be lurking in the shadows as well. So welcome aboard, everybody. Let's jump on into the news, because arriving in stores this month from Pegasus Spiele is Silence. And here's the latest. Zombie apocalypse, undead everywhere. Collect the items you need to survive and barricade yourself to avoid joining the zombie club. It's a game of quiet frenzy. You must find the right path in the tangle to survive. In Silence, you are all survivors of the zombie apocalypse and have set up camp on the roof of a skyscraper, which is located in the middle of the game board. 12 flight paths start from the skyscraper, 3 of which are active each round, as indicated by the symbol marker. Some of the paths are longer than others, some shorter, and some end up nowhere in particular. Each path begins with one of the 4 symbol icons, and each icon has a red, a yellow, and a blue path. Using only your eyes, your task is to scan the 3 active flight paths in order to find the best path. That is, the one on which you can find most of the items for which you're looking. Silence is for 2 to 4 players, ages 6 and up, plays in around 20 to 30 minutes, and it's going to carry an MSRP of $34.99 when it arrives in stores this month. In fact, I believe it is arriving in stores this week. I'm not positive, but I do believe so. So I thought this was interesting looking. It is from Pegasus Spiele. So it looks as if you need to eyeball these paths to figure out which is going to be the best for you to score items that I think you draw cards for that tell you what you need to get during that round. I do believe Sarah D is saying howdy from the shadows. Our third chat moderator, Fleming Huron, is with us, as is Russell Higgins. So welcome to you both. On to the next news piece. April will see the release of the revised edition of Fortune and Glory. And here's the latest from Flying Frog Productions. The wildly popular pulp adventure board game Fortune and Glory is back with a brand new revised edition. A best-selling game since its first release in 2011, fans and new players alike have been clamoring for its return, and this new revised edition hits the mark. With a more compact box size, streamlined rulebook, and over a decade's worth of polish and errata worked in, this is the ultimate version of this classic cliffhanger adventure game. Fortune and Glory, the cliffhanger game, is a fast-paced game of high adventure, vile villains, edge-of-your-seat danger, and 1930s cliffhanger pulp movie action. Players travel the globe in search of ancient artifacts, fending off danger and villains at every turn. So strap on your adventure boots and goggles, fire up the engines on the seaplane, and grab some extra ammo for your revolver. The Nazis already have a head start, and in this race for Fortune and Glory, there's no prize for second place. Fortune and Glory Revised Edition is for 1 to 8 players, ages 15 and up, plays in around 90 to 240 minutes, and it will carry an MSRP of $99. I almost said $19. $99.95 when it lands in stores on April 18th. I've got to say, I think my best friend Elliot Miller has the original Fortune and Glory. I know he's got quite a few of the Flying Frog production games. I recall we played Shadows over Brimstone. We played like an introductory adventure of that. That's more of a miniatures game than anything else, kind of a bit of a skirmish adventure game. I know he had reviewed some of the Flying Frog production titles for the Gaming Gang way back in the day. So I know he did reviews of Last Night on Earth. And then I think there's another one that is, I can't remember the title of it. I think it's an alien invasion one. So I'm kind of curious. I know last I had talked about this with him. I think he was looking to try to pick up Fortune and Glory. Maybe he never got it. It's been a while. It has been a while. But interestingly enough, Flying Frog Productions does have a new edition coming out. I will mention that their website is just awful. Sorry to say, but I mean, I gotta say that just looking at their website and trying to navigate their website has got to be costing them sales. Have to be costing them sales. And for some strange reason, Flying Frog Productions has always had a website that feels like a decade behind current technology. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. But unfortunately, that is the case. Jack Hanks is with us tonight. Good to see you, Jack. Let's move on to some role-playing game news because Marvels of the Multiverse from Dragon Peak Publishing has arrived. And here's the info on this Mutant Crawl Classics release. Tribal seekers wander the wilds to discover ancient artifacts and valuable resources to bring back to their communities. Some seekers are born to die in showdown duels where mutations collide, while others may find glory adventuring among the stars. Those that survive find their fortunes affected by both glorious and inglorious fates, and a foolish few will make their own path by delving into the ruins of the past and creating their own destiny. This zine brings fun and flavor to your Mutant Crawl Classics game. However, these rules can easily be adapted to use with other post-apocalypse or science fantasy settings and systems. This includes 36 pages of content designed for Mutant Crawl Classics, but as I mentioned, they're usable by just about any OSR or OSR adjacent game. It also includes a brand new Level 0 adventure titled The Millennials Awaken. I don't know if this is a gauntlet adventure or not. Usually, 0-level adventures are gauntlets. Denizens and Dooms to provide seekers with unique fates, mutation duels, and the Jungle Juice Drinker, a new pure strain human class that allows players to create potions that briefly mutate their PC. This 36-page softcover with PDF is available by way of DriveThruRPG for $10, or you can grab just the PDF alone for $6.99. Sweet. I thought I would share some Mutant Crawl Classics third-party release info for you, seeing that I want to say this is available actually both from DriveThruRPG and Exalted Funeral. I thought that was a bit unusual that both of those outlets have this available. Kind of strange. Now, a lot of times, Exalted Funeral will have a print edition of something, and then DriveThruRPG has the PDF. In this case, they are both offering softcover and PDF of Marvels of the Multiverse from, once again, Dragon Peak Publishing. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. Love Fist is with us, as is Matthew Blackwell. Thank you for popping on board. Looks like there's some discussion of Zaki dice, the D7, D5. Yes, the D26. That's another Zaki die. All right, on to the next news piece. A new bundle of holding has arrived, which brings you the Knock OSR magazine from the Merry Mushmen. And I've got the deets on the deal. Knock Knock Adventurer. This all-new Knock magazine bundle presents 3 digital issues of, you guessed it, Knock, the Merry Mushmen's magazine for old-school tabletop fantasy role-playing games. Dubbed an adventure gaming bric-a-brac and a compendium of miscellanea for old-school RPGs. Knock showcases kick-ass layouts, dazzling color, and a barrage of articles, essays, tables, rules, maps, monster stats, and adventures that range from weird to, well, no, they're all uniformly weird. Every overstuffed 200-plus page issue features the most audacious designers in the old school revival. Keep these lavish PDFs close by for perusing, daydreaming, and prepping your next session. For just $17.95, you'll get all 3 magazine issues in the Knock collection, which has a retail value of $69 as DRM-free PDFs. And this includes issues 1, 2, and 3 of Knock. These savings will run through March 4th. Nice. I have heard very, very good things about Knock magazine. I've always heard good things about the Merry Mushmen releases. So, gotta say, this is what I think one of the things that they're actually really best known for. W. Ford says, oh, the Flying Frog website isn't that bad. I was expecting something along the lines of Far Future Enterprises or the god-awfulness of Flying Buffalo Games back in the day. I think they had the all-time worst tabletop gaming website of all time. It always looked like something from the late 1990s. So, but the Flying Frog website is pretty bad. It is certainly not a modern website by any stretch of the imagination whatsoever. So let's wrap up the news tonight, because now available in print and PDF from Dr. Greg Gillespie and OSR Publishing is the Dragonslayer role-playing game. And here's what I know. Harken back to the golden age of role-playing games. Journey into a realm of myth and magic where ancient legends and terrifying monsters come to life and adventure awaits. Inspired by the timeless role-playing tradition of the 1980s, this rule set seamlessly integrates the simplicity of basic and expert Dungeons & Dragons with the chrome of first edition. The book includes everything you need: races, classes, spells, monsters, treasure, all combined in a single volume. In its simplest form, Dragonslayer mimics Basic Expert in gameplay. Moldvay Basic is a finely tuned machine. It's the best, most internally consistent edition ever created. However, Gary Gygax's siren song of first edition still echoes in our heads, and the races, classes, magic items, monsters, and spells drip with texture and flavor for fantasy campaigns. Having said that, Dragonslayer uses the engine of Basic Expert with the chrome of first edition. What does that mean? It means the combat engine, casting, and initiative reflect the former, and the cool stuff reflects the latter. There are also issues with first edition that needed to be addressed. For example, dragons were too weak. Demon and devil types were internally inconsistent. Druids were hosed. The monk was non-Western. Thrown weapon bonuses and damage was never really addressed to satisfaction. There were lots of lame rules that needed to go, like weapon speed factors and counting segments. Just because a rule existed to keep Dave Arneson from getting royalties doesn't make it a good rule. At the end of the day, Dragonslayer presents like a honed version of first edition D&D, but with the firm commitment to the iterative elegance of Moldvay Basic. Think of Dragonslayer as halfway between the two, or 0.75. The 299-page hardcover of Dragonslayer is available now over at Drive-Thru RPG as a print-on-demand, which does include the PDF, for an MSRP of $80, or you can grab just the PDF alone for $30. So I do recall sharing this news piece when this was up on Kickstarter, and I was quite interested then. I am actually quite interested now, because I know Dr. Greg Gillespie has done some pretty well-regarded mega dungeons, like Highfell, Dwimmermount. Those are a couple that just come immediately to mind. I know there's a few others out there. But I'm kind of curious, because it sounds quite a bit like Old School Essentials Advanced Fantasy, which is Basic Expert mechanics and first edition D&D Chrome. So I'm curious. I am curious. Sadly enough, I don't have any relations with Dr. Greg Gillespie or OSR Publishing, so I don't think we will have an opportunity to check this out for a review copy. But I did want to share it nonetheless. I do remember seeing a lot of the artwork that I'm sharing right now that kind of stuck out, because it really does have that old school line art feel to it. All these images would be right at home in, say, the player's handbook for first edition Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, some of these would probably have been very welcome additions to that as well. Matthew Blackwell says, another OSR game. I love seeing that. Well, you know that I do share old school Renaissance news and reviews. So I've got quite a few items that I've got reviews coming up for with, let's see. I have Cursed Scroll magazines, issues 1 through 3. And of course, I just recently reviewed Shadow Dark. And then I also have Gary's Appendix, issues 1, 2, and 3. Have reviews of those on the horizon. And I just shot a first look at the latest release from Troll Lord Games, An Undying War, which collects adventures A0 through A12. So I will have my first look video out on Friday for this. So I know a lot of people don't feel Castles and Crusades is OSR. It's not by what I feel is the definition of old school revival, but it certainly is old school themed. No doubt about that. Matthew Blackwell says they play basic fantasy exclusively. It's great, 100% modular with all the supplements, and it is absolutely free if you get the digital releases. That's right, basicfantasy.org. You can go snag the core book, all the various different adventures, the supplemental material, all absolutely free in PDF. So not a bad choice there at all. I like basic fantasy quite a lot. Okay, so that is it for the news tonight. Of course, I was just talking about Drive-Thru RPG. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to visit Drive-Thru RPG or Dungeon Masters Guild, Storytellers Vault, Wargame Vault, what have you, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banner ads. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like this video, by all means, if you like this video, if you dig the channel, if you find thegaminggang.com to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, you can always stop on by paypal.me/thegaminggang to make a small donation. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. Hits the spot. And do want to say thank you to the Madman Kevin King and Marius Smith for recently stopping by paypal.me/thegaminggang and making donations. Much appreciated. In fact, I appreciate, almost stumbled over my tongue there. I appreciate all of you using the banner ads and or visiting paypal.me/thegaminggang. Thank you kindly. Coco B is popping on in, asking, you have a Gary's Appendix? I'd say display it, even if it's kind of gruesome. Yes. It's more along the lines of kind of, well, it's not really Appendix N. It's just the various appendices, which you would find in the Dungeon Master's Guide for First Edition Dungeons and Dragons. So kind of fits in that way. Pretty interesting magazines. I will have reviews of those very shortly. So the dispatch is going to continue in just a few moments. But first, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
If going to a movie show is right for you, if candy eating and popcorn chewing's right for you, if what you do is right for you, no matter what the others do, then RC Cola is right for you. It's not too heavy, not too sweet, it's right for you. RC Cola. RC's just an easy going, right for you. RC Cola. If what you do is right for you, no matter what the others do, then RC Cola is right for you. It's right for you. It's right for you.
It's cute. It's funny. I love it. What is it?
It's not a what is it? It's a happy hugger.
A what?
A happy hugger. It hugs you, it talks to you, hello, and it kisses you and tickles you.
Let me try it.
Wait, it needs elbows.
Here's a hug from the Happy Hugger.
The Happy Hugger, hand washable, drip dry from Dick Clark Associates. Order yours in Chicago by calling 641-1111 or toll free 800-621-0660. Save COD, send $19.98 to Box 4999 Chicago.
Hey, Spidey, isn't Marvel's new Pizzazz magazine fantastic?
Fantastic, but not perfect.
But Pizzazz has the lowdown on Jaws, too, and more Sean Cassidy picks than his mother. It's sensational.
Sensational, but not perfect.
How about Pizzazz's Goofy Guide to TV? It's wild look at sci-fi movies. It's games, puzzles, comics. What could be more perfect?
Me on the cover, not the Hulk.
Pizzazz, the almost perfect new monthly from the off-the-wall gang at Marvel Comics.
Have a cup of Wilkins Instant Coffee? Wild horses couldn't make me. Okay, give me a cup. People are winning big here at Taco Bell's $4 million Mucho Mucho giveaway. You can win a DeLorean or $25,000 cash, a Mustang Ghia or $5,000, TVs, stereos, cameras, bicycles, excuse me, trips for two to Mexico and Hawaii, plus millions of food prizes instantly, including Pepsi-Cola. So come in today and play the Taco Bell $4 million Mucho Mucho giveaway. These your DeLorean? What?
Play the Taco Bell $4 million Mucho Mucho giveaway.
Yes, that happy hugger is bizarre. And it was from Dick Clark Associates. I did not realize that Dick Clark had a finger in the puppet pie. Yes. And I don't know how many of you out there recall Pizzazz. If you're outside the U.S., no, you wouldn't have had any experience with that. But I remember it. I remember getting that magazine. It was aimed, at kids. And it was from Marvel. I think it was from Marvel and Scholastic. And if I remember correctly, I think, so I'm going to go off, not on a tangent, but kind of off topic here. I seem to recall that it was part of, and I'm sure some of you out there, maybe say the madman, will recall these things from being in grammar school. But when I was in grammar school, now I went to a Catholic grammar school, and we used to get on a monthly basis these little, almost like paper magazines, but they were for books, and you would order the books, but it wasn't Scholastic. I don't recall it actually being Scholastic, which I think is who does it now for grammar schools. And I think one of the things you could order in that was Pizzazz. And I think that's how I used to get it. And it was funny. I remember the shipment would come to the school, and then they would hand out each person's order. And I used to get a bunch of stuff. I used to get a bunch of books, things like that. And then by about 6th grade or so, I started reading adult novels. So I remember I was in grammar school, and I've mentioned this before. I was reading Stephen King's The Stand. I had read Salem's Lot. I had read Ghost Story from Peter Straub. See, there's a theme there. I was reading a lot of horror stuff. We've got quite a few people popping on into chat. So Anthony Good and Lenny Blade, as well as Game Masters Hobby. Willona's Cave is with us. Travis Williams is popping on in, as has Keldon. So we've got a pretty good chat rocking and rolling. So the Madman says the only thing they remember came from Scholastic books. It may have been Scholastic, but the funny thing is I thought it was somebody else, but it was along the same lines. So Scuddifer Mike, I think I may have said that correctly. I believe this is a first-time visit. Welcome aboard. Said they had Scholastic book fairs. That we never had. We never had that. But I went to a pretty small school. So I think our largest classes were maybe 20 kids, 25 kids possibly. So it was not a very large Catholic school. In fact, just this past year, they tore it down. The school had been closed for the church, and school had been closed for a few years. And we have seen some consolidation, I guess we'll say, of Catholic schools and I guess dioceses in the Chicago area. So as of late. So Keldon says there were two primary companies, Scholastic and Troll. I don't remember Troll. Maybe it was Scholastic. Maybe that's it. Now, of course, we are talking about what? Early 70s, early mid 70s. So yeah, probably more mid 70s. So 75, 76-ish or so. But yeah, I remember when we would get those monthly shipments and it'd be like, oh, it's book day. Yeah, cool. And I'd have like a stack of stuff. Bill N is with us. Said Pittsburgh has a running PBS show called Stuff That's Gone. That's interesting. Well, just like a couple of those commercials I shared with you tonight are from a channel on YouTube. And I want to say it's the Broadcasting Museum of Chicago or the Chicago Broadcasting Museum. It's really wild. It is a wild channel. They have all these like videos that people no doubt have sent to be digitized from VHS tapes. And it's just episodes of different shows, things like that, things that were on TV. It's the actual broadcast in Chicago for one of the Chicago networks. So like Channel 7, Channel 5, Channel 2. So kind of interesting if you're ever kind of curious to see stuff. And it's usually from the late 60s through the 80s. I don't think there's really much modern that's on there. But it is pretty wild. They have quite a lot of commercials in that too. There you go. Let's get back on topic then. So tonight I was going to mention, and yes, I know I really am not providing coverage for Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards of the Coast anymore, but a lot of people are talking about the release schedule that came out from Wizards of the Coast for their upcoming Dungeons and Dragons releases. And it looks as if part of the new edition. Well, it's not new edition. What were they calling it last? They weren't calling it 1D&D anymore. Should have never been calling it 1D&D. And of course, they refused to call it 6th edition. I think they were calling it the 2024 revision. I think that was kind of the moniker they had given it. But if you were paying attention, the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons was actually last month. It was about a month ago. And there was nary a mention from Wizards of the Coast. They may have tweeted something, but they certainly did not make a big deal out of it in any way, shape, or form. And then with their announcement of their scheduling, it looks as if the new Monster Manual is not going to be available until February of 2025. So their 2024 revision, all 3 books will not be available in 2024. And at least in my opinion, this is just another prime example of how poorly run Wizards of the Coast is and has been for the past handful of years. It is absolutely ridiculous that they are not going to have all 3 books out in the 50th anniversary year of Dungeons & Dragons. Makes absolutely no sense. And it is not outside the realm of possibility that those first 2 books, the Player's Manual and the Dungeon Master's Guide, are going to slip further back too. Because if I remember correctly, I think the Player's Handbook is supposed to come out in September. And then the Dungeon Master's Guide is supposed to come out in November, if I remember correctly. They should have all been ready for Gen Con 2024. End of the discussion. All 3 books should have been coming out at the same exact time. Because if they're really pushing this as a revision, remember, it's not a 6th edition. They don't want anybody to think that it's a 6th edition of Dungeons & Dragons. It is a revision. So if it was a revision, then they should have had all 3 of these volumes good to go at the same time. And of course, could have made it a big deal at Gen Con with that coming out. That would have been the biggest story at Gen Con this coming summer. Not anymore. Not anymore. In fact, I have to also mention that Wizards of the Coast, just their presence at Gen Con has faded away over the past few years. So it's you can't even really buy the Dungeons & Dragons core books from Wizards of the Coast at Gen Con. You can buy them from third-party stores who have exhibit areas in the exhibit hall, but they don't even sell D&D from Wizards of the Coast at Gen Con anymore. It is so bizarre. Game Master's Hobby says just because the remastered was already taken. Bill N says, my 5e books are so worn from use, I need new books anyway. Looking forward to an update. Matthew Blackwell says, I don't even care about Wizards of the Coast or D&D anymore. After all their nonsense, they can kick rocks. Yes, Travis Williams is always talking about WotC kicking rocks. Nero's Fiddle is with us. Good to see you. Frank Distrasso, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, says so much as far as great books from independent creators that we don't need Wizards of the Coast. Personally, they're buying everything from, there you go, Dr. Greg Gillespie and RPG Pundit. Gotta say, both of those individuals can be problematic, though. No, well, probably Dr. Gillespie, not as much as RPG Pundit. RPG Pundit just has a nasty habit of pissing people off. Never met him. I've only seen a couple of videos. In fact, I don't even think they get in front of the camera. I might be wrong on that. But I'm sort of like, a lot of times he's just, the videos I've seen from him is he's just whinging about shit, which is fine. It's all right. Wild Hunter says they're replaying old D&D scenarios. They're still a lot of fun. New Dungeons & Dragons has no charms for them. Well, as I had just been talking about doing the first look video for An Undying War for Castles and Crusades, Castles and Crusades has that D&D feel, little more modern as far as the third edition that it's built upon, but I love the fact that you can take all the old AD&D modules and convert them pretty easily, practically on the fly, for a lot of games that are out there. A lot of OSR games, Castles and Crusades as an example, basic fantasy. Another great example, we were just talking about that a little bit earlier. So Mike says, after they got rid of Mike Merles, the tone and content of the books took a turn for the worse. Well, here the thing is, let's see, how do I want to say this? They didn't get rid of Mike Merles until very recently. Mike Merles had still been working for Wizards of the Coast up until that firing binge they went on before Christmas. So even though Wizards of the Coast implied that Mike Merles wasn't working for them anymore, he was, which pissed a lot of people off. Game Master's Hobby says, missed opportunity. Gen Con was the perfect time to show the new D&D stuff. When is Starfinder coming out? The playtest, the physical playtest book, which you'll be able to buy, is going to come out at Gen Con. That is their game plan. The PDF will be absolutely free. So you've got that coming out as well. 245 Trioxin is with us. Welcome aboard. So Frank Distrasso, I hope I'm saying that close, says they're not problematic to them. That's fine. People already know that I am one of these sorts that, yes, I happen to be left of center in my politics, but that doesn't mean I don't share news pieces from people who I probably do not share many of the same views on a lot of things. Thus, the news piece about Dragonslayer earlier in the show and me talking about, curious. I'm intrigued by it. Let's see. Matthew says, I'd like to check out Castles and Crusades. Well, you can get the player's handbook absolutely free in PDF. It is not the most recent print run, but one of the things about Castles and Crusades is they don't have different editions. It's always been the same game. Now, have they expanded on content, things like that? Yes, of course they have. But it isn't like, oh, well, now they're on their 4th edition of Castles and Crusades. Now, I know they've got a new print run that I think is out. I'm not positive if it's out or not. But I think it's like the 10th print run. And I want to say it's like the 6th or 7th of the player's handbook is absolutely free in PDF. I have links to it on thegaminggang.com. If you do a search for Castles and Crusades, I don't know how easy it is to track down on their website, though, because unfortunately, Troll Lord Games doesn't have the most modern website either. It's not as bad as Flying Frog Productions, but it's not fantastic. It's not great. So what I might do is I might actually see if I can track down that link again. I'll put it in the show notes for this episode. So if you want to check out Castles and Crusades, anybody watching wants to check out Castles and Crusades, by all means, you certainly can. Something else I mention all the time is all the rules you need are in the player's handbook. All the castle keeper's advice, that's the game master in Castles and Crusades terms, all that's located in the player's handbook. The Monsters and Treasure book, you could pick that up if you wanted, because that is the bestiary and treasure book. But as I had pointed out before, it's pretty easy to convert anywhere from first edition AD&D to, let's say, third edition. I don't know about 3.5. But from first to third, as well as a lot of the just basic expert stuff. So you can always use an OSR bestiary and treasure book if you already have it. But everything you need as far as learning how to play and run Castles and Crusades, all the classes, all that stuff is in that player's handbook. So that's another selling point, in my opinion, of Castles and Crusades is really core book wise, you need two. You really need two books, which brings me to another item that I wanted to briefly touch upon. And somebody commented on a video I had shared for the Dreams and Machines. I think it was the Game Master's Guide, which I just shared today, because I am in the middle of Modifius Entertainment Week at the Gaming Gang. So all week long, you will see first look videos for various releases from Modifius Entertainment. I've already shared a first look at the rule book for the second edition of Fragged Empire. And I've also got the Player's Guide and the Game Master's Guide for Dreams and Machines. So those are out as well. Tomorrow, I will be sharing my first look at Dune, Sands and Dust. I really like Dune Adventures in the Imperium. I think Modifius Entertainment has done a really good job with this. Anyway, they were talking about how they prefer their game systems to just have one core book, that they don't like having multiple books that they have to go buy in order to run a role-playing game. And that all derives from Dungeons and Dragons. That's where that all comes from, is you had the player book, you had the Dungeon Master's Guide, you had the Monster Manual. Talking, going way back. Even original Dungeons and Dragons in the brown box or white box, whichever, had 3 booklets. So it has always been broken up. So many other publishers out there feel that, well, having multiple core books is a given, that gamers aren't going to be taken aback by that because they're so used to buying multiple books in order to run something. And yes, I know where people are coming from. I agree with you on the concept of putting everything into a single book. But you also start running into some problems there as well, because then you start looking at core rule books that are 600 pages long. And 600-page books don't tend to hold up very well at the game table. They don't hold up to all that usage at the game table. So there's a bit of a divide with that. So I understand where people are coming from as far as there should be just a single core book. But I do also see when you have a trio of books and they're all clocking in at over 200 pages, sometimes over 3, it does make sense to break them up into separate books. So Frank says 5e is ironically really good and contains instruction on how to play in many different styles. I hate the art, but the books state the world is low magic and I like first edition. You should take what you want. 5e, the only issue I have with 5e is that there's a lot of actual mechanics which are kind of left up to the dungeon master. So I think that's an issue that a lot of people have with that. Behorn is with us, says, kind of wish Castles and Crusades would have print editions consistent in numbering instead of X edition of Player's Guide, Y of Monster Guide, and Z of the Castle Keeper Guide. Yes, I understand that. Now, you did have the trio of books that all had the homage covers, which I've got the Monsters and Treasure right there. And those were all different print runs, but they did all have the same homage style for their covers. Yeah, it is kind of strange how that worked out. Wild Hunter says that, where was that? Just jumped past me. 5e is almost a definition of high magic. Gandalf would be first level in 5e. Well, if we go way back, Gandalf would have kind of been first level in AD&D too. In fact, wasn't there an article in Dragon that discussed Gandalf? And I think he would have been, I think at most he was like third level. Scudfire Mike says, I'm currently using Old School Essentials on their YouTube channel to run solo plays, but they're considering switching to Dragonslayer. It looks very cool. Like I said, I had heard that the artwork throughout is really, really well done. Wild Hunter says they'll check out Castles and Crusades, but frankly, there are too many D&D-like systems around. It is not it's not a 5e sort of thing. It really isn't. So if you like the old school vibe, give it a peek. Like I said, the Player's Handbook is absolutely free in PDF. Check that out. It won't cost you anything. So Coco B says, the Keeper's Guide is in its 4th printing compared to the Player's 9th or whatever. I think it's on its 10th. I think that was the newest one, is its 10th. Bill N says, I love Castles and Crusades, Dungeon Crawl Classics, Shadow Dark, but shameless plug, Index Card role-playing game is still one of my top 3 all time. I like Index Card role-playing game. I did a video why you should play Index Card role-playing. So yes, I am with you on that. And yes, we were just talking about the new RPG from Runehammer, Crown and Skull. I think that was it, Crown and Skull. I don't think we're going to get an opportunity to check that out because Hankering for an Ale, or whatever moniker he prefers to go by, I had kind of messaged me on Twitter that he didn't sound happy that he was not able to take part in chat when I was doing that news piece after he had told me he was going to be in chat. And he said it was terrible that I make sure that people are subscribers for at least 48 hours before taking part in chat. And yeah, we've had problems with trolls before. That's why that is in effect. Even with that in effect, we have had people that we've had to boot out of chat. But the funny thing is, I have shared a lot of videos about Index Card role-playing. Do you think maybe he could have subscribed to the channel back then? It's like, so I did first look videos, I did a review video, did a why you should play video, and he couldn't be bothered to subscribe to the channel? So I was like, all right, whatever. Bill N says, yes, they have the homage covers. That's what I've got as well. Matthew Blackwell says, I think 5e D&D is kind of sloggy, meaning combat can go on forever with actions, reactions, bonus actions, and all of that. I like simple move and attack or attack and move and on to the next. Funny enough, 5e D&D combat is designed to last 3 rounds. I don't know how many of you know this. I'm sure a lot of you do. 3 rounds. 3 rounds. Regardless of what enemy you're taking on. Because once again, we have that encounter balance. But it is supposed to last 3 rounds. Maybe 4. But everything is supposed to be designed 3 rounds. And I don't know about you folks out there, but I can't think of too many 5e D&D combats that last 3 rounds. They all seem to drag on. Kevin King, I think I said hi to Kevin, says the 3-action economy in Pathfinder 2nd Edition seems to keep combat moving, at least in our sessions thus far. I like the 3-action economy, which will be coming to Starfinder 2nd Edition, which will allow you a lot of crossover potential with Pathfinder and Starfinder. I'm sure there are a lot of people who are going to be very happy about that. But I think the 3-action economy also provides for a lot of uniqueness to the combats, as opposed to, well, you know, we've got so many special abilities of these monsters, and as the dungeon master, you kind of pick from them. I'll tell you one thing that's very cool is with Dragonbane as well as Forbidden Lands, the monsters, the game master rolls to see what the monsters do as far as their attacks. I like that quite a lot. I think that changes things up very nicely. And it also takes some of the tactical aspects of combat out of the hands of the game master, who has enough that they have to worry about, as opposed to, oh, well, how exactly are these goblins going to ambush the party and so on and so forth. Wild Hunter says 3 rounds. I didn't know that one. 3 rounds. Matthew Blackwell says for 5e, 3 rounds can last an hour. Wild Hunter also pointed out that they found the Dragon article Gandalf was only a 5th level magic user from Dragon Magazine, March 1977. Wow, he was that high? I'm surprised. I am very surprised. As far as like combat in fantasy role-playing games, I prefer my combat to be very dirty, very gritty, very deadly. When I'm running Call of Cthulhu, as far as NPCs go, I may not let NPCs have a full helping of hit points. So there have been times where it's like somebody gets a critical hit, let's say like a revolver or whatever, and even if they're rolling, terrible rolls for the damage, headshot, that's it. If they're humans, if they're creatures, I tend to make them a little hardier than the average squishy human. Matthew Blackwell says, that's my appeal to OSR. Combat is quick and deadly. Combat's over quick. You can get back to telling the story. Another aspect of OSR that you do not see in most modern role-playing games, including Pathfinder. I'm not just going to pick on 5e D&D. Pathfinder falls into this category. Far, far, far too much combat. Way too much combat. Not enough options as far, I'm talking like printed adventures. They never have enough options for negotiation or stealth things like that. It's just combat. Combat, combat, combat. Speaking of, Roll for Combat is with us. Good to see you, Stephen. Stephen had a video today talking about the delay with Dungeons and Dragons for 2024. So I did not see it, but I saw it. I didn't watch it. I saw it popped up. And yes, Roll for Combat says, I love combat. So for Stephen, in fact, he had mentioned this on the show I was on, that he actually had a combat which it sounded like took up more than one session. And I remember Stephen's talking about it. I was just sitting there. I didn't say anything. But I was thinking to myself, oh, at my table, absolutely not. It's like, no way. No way. So, Roll for Combat says they just popped up a new video that dropped 5 minutes ago. Hasbro lost $1 billion in the last 3 months. See, remember, wasn't too long ago, a couple of weeks back, I was talking about how Hasbro is cash poor at the moment. That's why selling Dungeons and Dragons wouldn't be such an insane idea, even though they said they're not going to. Wild Hunter says, in Call of Cthulhu, it's even more fun when they lose their minds, especially when holding automatic weapons. A lot of times when people like freak out, I always have their characters drop stuff. Wild Hunter is pointing out Doctor Who Adventures in Time and Space, or nowadays it's just Doctor Who, the role-playing game. Initiative goes talk, run, fight. Yep. The talkers go first. The people who are running away go next. And those engaging in combat go last. Kevin King says they've been avoiding the Warhammer money pit since college, which was last century. Game Master's Hobby says, I like how Season of Ghosts deals with alternative ways to deal with the opponents. I have been reviewing that. I will have my review for the final chapter probably in the next week or so. And I must admit, it's probably my favorite of the Pathfinder 2nd Edition adventure paths to this point. So Anthony Good says, yes, they enjoy the combat in Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay too. So do I. It's pretty quick, pretty deadly. I like the SR, the success ranks. I like that. It is a little tricky for some people to wrap their heads around at the beginning, especially if they're coming from, say, a 5e D&D. They're already kind of thrown for a loop with the percentile dice. But then when you start tossing in the success ranks, but I like that. I like that quite a bit. And I think the thing I like the most is just how lethal combat can be. I'm just a big fan of that. I've been a big fan of that kind of approach since I picked up RuneQuest back in, I think it was 1979. I bought the boxed set for RuneQuest and was like, wow. Although when I first read it, I was kind of thrown for a loop by the hit points by body location. And I was like, well, wait a second. They don't add up. They don't add up right. Wild Hunter says they're going to be buying Season of Ghosts and adapting it to basic role-playing. Flaming Heron says combat has to be deadlier. It has no meaning. This is something that I talked about when I joined Stephen and Mark on Roll for Combat. And that was one of the aspects of the OSR that I think works so well is that, yes, combat is deadly. There has to be risk involved. Player characters have to have some sort of risk that their player character is going to take a dirt nap. If you don't, then nothing really means anything. And I think that is a big drawback of the whole aspect of players crafting these detailed backstories and spending hours putting together their backstories. Not only, and I say this all the time, not only is it forcing the game master to try to, pigeonhole that into their adventure that they've come up with, but in a lot of ways, that's all the players care about. The players don't even care about the adventure anymore. It's all about, what is my character going through? Lenny Blade says they played a lot of 40K in college with only copied counters and whatever they could use for terrain. They were Games Workshop's worst nightmare. Actually, Games Workshop's worst nightmare would be you using some other miniature maker's figures. Didn't spend any money on minis. This was for second edition 40K. I had first edition 40K. I liked it. I'll be the first to point out, I am not, versed in any sort of Warhammer lore, be it fantasy role play or 40K. I mean, I know a bit about the background with Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, but as far as the miniatures games and stuff, I have not picked up a new edition of a rule book. It's gotta be Warhammer 40K, but it may have been, say, 4th edition, maybe 3rd. Kevin King says the Warhammer group at the school they went to was a bunch of rich kids. All of them had boxes of product. Funny enough, my nephew, when he was about 12, was trying to talk my sister-in-law into getting him into Warhammer 40K, buying him stuff. And she was going to do that. And I told her, absolutely not. I said, because that is just a massive money sink. Now, if my nephew wanted to get into it now and he's paying for his own stuff, sure, of course. I'd teach him how to paint minis. I started teaching him how not too long ago with the Fallout miniatures that came with the Wasteland Warfare. Wasn't it a starter box that came out? Flaming Heron says that was a lifetime ago, Jeff. Yes, it was. For 4th edition Warhammer 40K, long time ago. All righty then. That is it for this time out. If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings at 7 p.m. Central right here on YouTube. I'll also let you know when I share other videos, such as Modifius Entertainment Week rocking on tomorrow, as I'll share my first look at Dune, Adventures in the Imperium, Sand and Dust. Got lots of Modifius Entertainment content. I have a bunch of Cubicle 7 entertainment releases, or I guess now they want to be called Cubicle 7 games, I think. But I have about a dozen, maybe more, books coming. They have not shipped out yet, but the shipping label has been created. So a couple of weeks from now, we will have a Cubicle 7 entertainment week as well. And I've got other stuff too. As I mentioned, stay tuned. I will be sharing my first look at Castles and Crusades, An Undying War on Friday. It's already shot. It's just not edited. It's not in the can yet, but that'll be up on Friday. Sweet. So if you're watching live, thank you very kindly. If you watched live and took part in chat, big tip of the cap. Thank you very much. Because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company as well. But of course, I know a lot of people out there, have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out of your busy life to watch any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. Of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit gaminggang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on the YouTube channel. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Everybody enjoy the rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time of day it is in your neck of the woods. I'll be back tomorrow. And as always, here's hoping each and every one of you always gets to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.